Many of us have cell phones, which we appreciate. If we forget it home, we will turn and pick it up before reaching our destination. We keep it close at hand and we will hardly be seen without it. But for most of us, it's not our first phone. Over time, we have traded in our phones for newer, upgraded models. I have a laptop that I spend most of my waking hours on. I really appreciate all that we accomplished together, but it's not my first laptop. Over time, I've disposed of a couple devices in favor of newer models. Several of them were still functioning when they were replaced. It's also the same with my car. 33 years ago, I married a young lady. I never had a wife before, and even after 33 years, I'm not the least bit interested in exchanging her for a newer model that may be available on the market. The difference is that she's not an item that exists for my pleasure and convenience. She's my life companion. And too often men view women as simply an object that exists for their pleasure and convenience. They use, abuse, and then refuse. Within many cultures, over the centuries, women are seen and treated as second-class citizens, even as property. Some women even believe that their self-worth and value is rooted in the extent to which they could give men pleasure, and they literally sell themselves as such. Industries have been built on that ideology. That was never God's intent. God said, "Let us make man in our image and likeness, and let them have dominion." Man there did not refer exclusively to the male species, but rather to the human race. Because in the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. Both male and female were created in his image, to have dominion, not over each other, but together to exercise governance over the rest of creation. So, while Paul tells women to submit to their husbands, he said first that their husband and wife must submit to each other. While Paul tells women that they must honor their husbands, Peter says that husbands must deal with their wives with understanding and honor them as joint heirs. While Paul taught that the man is the head of the woman, he also taught how that headship should be exercised. Christ's headship of the church should be his example. Christ loved the church so much that he gave himself. He sacrificed himself totally. He gave all he was and had for it. And this is the love a husband is to have for his wife. Christ brought the church to his feet by his great care, not by threats, no fear, no intimidation, or any such thing. And so too husbands should conduct themselves towards their wives with a sacrificial, sanctifying love that cherishes and nourishes even as we do ourselves, not as an object of self-gratification. And that's how men ought not to look at women, as objects for self-gratification. Yes, men will naturally find women attractive and desire the pleasure of physical intimacy with them. But the relationship between the sexes is much more than that. As someone once said, which has been repeated several times, we must not love things and use people, but we must use things and love people. In short, our relationships between the sexes and with anyone must be characterized by mutual love and respect.